One of my favourite trends since the beginning of the century is the increase in attention towards animation as a genuine artistic medium that can be appreciated by any demographic. It is hard to put a finger on a single contributing factor to this. Maybe the decrease in attention to child-focused Disney's work in the 2000s, while more whole family-oriented Pixar skyrocketed in popularity. The 2000s also saw a spike in global attention to Japanese animated movies, largely starting with Spirited Away being the first non-English language animated movie to be awarded an Oscar. This trend has been continually growing since then, with anime breaking fully into the mainstream in the early 2010s and more Japanese animated movies getting full cinematic releases every year. And as a whole, the medium of animation has continued to flourish into the 2010s, with Disney escaping their slump, Pixar continuing to mostly release high quality content, and indie studios starting to gain more recognition. As I said, Japanese animated movies also continue to ride this wave of success, with older movies getting rediscovered to gain major acclaim, think Howl's Moving Castle's current fanbase, and new releases gaining major hype and success, like the recent acclaim of Hosoda's Belle. In spite of animated movies now reaching this level of recognition, it is a shame to see one of my favourites continually overlooked, lost in relative obscurity compared to some of my other favourites. However, unlike other hidden gems, I can actually acknowledge and accept why so many people overlook this movie. That doesn't mean I will hesitate in my rampant praise of it. One Piece, Baron Omatsuri, and The Secret Island. Yo! Long-running Shounen series have been getting spin-off movies almost since the genre's inception, and while they are often profitable capitalizing on their niche, their critical reception often isn't glowing. This is fair though, these movies are aimed at a very limited group, and there is an implication that you cannot fully enjoy them unless you've committed to watching sometimes hundreds of episodes of context. These spin-off movies have started rising in quality in recent years, with notable examples being the record-breaking Demon Slayer Mugen Train and the recent Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. However, the trend started in the 2000s, and the formulaic, exclusively filler, and often low-quality spin-off movies still taint the reputation of this niche genre. The movies tend to be enjoyed by fans, some held in higher regard than others, but they're almost wholly ignored by the mainstream and panned by the uninitiated critics who are forced to watch them. One Piece is a franchise which fully hopped on this trend in the 2000s, releasing 9 movies between 2000 and 2008, before eventually slowing down with only 5 movies releasing since then, with another one on its way. These first 9 movies have been lumped together as the bad era of One Piece movies, with the 5 after this almost universally recognized as superior. I can't even argue with this attitude. The newer movies have all been worked on by the creator of the series, Eiichiro Oda, and therefore don't have the almost fanfiction-like feeling of the other works. And with the longer production time, the movies tend to feel more fleshed out within the universe. They're still primarily for the fans of the series, but now the fans appreciate them a lot more. In spite of all this, my favourite One Piece movie is from the cinematic universe's bad era, being the 6th movie released, and in my opinion is not really made for the fans. So what makes this movie stand out from other One Piece movies, other Shounen spin-off movies, and other animated movies overall? To quickly summarise some of my later points, this movie has a tone and story rare to cinematic animation and captures the creative spirit of now highly acclaimed director Mamoru Hosoda at a darker point in his career. The story is perfectly paced, skipping the often clunky introduction of a lead cast of characters, and twists these characters in unexpected directions, keeping fans and newcomers on their toes throughout the runtime. If you're a fan of 2000 style animation, surreal and ominous atmospheres, or just seem interested based on this brief description, I would recommend watching the movie then coming back here. I say this because before I go into too much detail, I want to give a slightly abridged summary of the movie to give my commentary the context it needs. But for those of you wary of spoilers, watch out after this point. Yo! But before this, I want to give all the context I think that is needed to fully appreciate the movie. I'm mainly doing this to show just how little you need to know, but also to exemplify that you don't even really need it to appreciate the movie, just that it might help if you want to feel like you're not missing anything. Around 20 years prior to the series beginning, famous pirate Gol D. Roger was executed and announced he left his treasure, the One Piece, hidden to find, leading to a great age of piracy. Our protagonist is one of the many captains inspired by this, and when the movie takes place, his crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, is beginning to gain notoriety. The only other major law which is needed is the existence of rare magical devil fruits, which when ingested, grant the user a random power at the cost of their ability to swim. That's all you really need to know. The characters are all portrayed in a way that lets the audience know which archetype they fill. Captain Luffy is cheerful and headstrong, First Mate Zoro is gruff and irritable, Navigator Nami is materialistic and cowardly, Marksman Usopp is unserious and also a coward, Cook Sanji is a blueprint for the cool but perverse character, anthropomorphic reindeer Dr. Chopper is innocent and also the third member of the cowardly trio, and newcomer Robin is reserved and mysterious. I don't really need to tell you this as the narrative makes these character traits obvious, but it might make the earlier scenes of the movie easier to absorb. The last thing of note is that Luffy, Chopper and Robin Robin have all eaten devil fruits, with Luffy being able to stretch his body like rubber, Chopper able to change his body shape for different utilities, and Robin able to sprout copies of her limbs from anywhere in her vicinity. It's just as weird as it sounds. With that semi-necessary context out of the way, let's get to the story. Yo! Lured in by a flyer, the Straw Hats travel to Omatsuri Island, tempted by the promise of a luxury resort. Upon arrival, the Straw Hats are amazed by the resort and greeted by Baron Omatsuri, his shoulder flower, and his massive crew of staff, all adorned with a small plant sprout on their heads. Before being allowed to enjoy the resort, the crew are challenged to undergo the trials of hell, and typically adventurous Luffy agrees without question, citing his faith in his crew. I'm sure that theme won't come up later. The first trial of goldfish catching is a harder challenge than expected, but the crew get to show off their prowess and teamwork and manage to win. Furious at the Straw Hats' pass, the Baron gives them another challenge, with Luffy and his begrudging crew accepting. The second trial is a boat riding ring toss, with the Straw Hats just managing to win, but not without Zoro and Sanji getting into a bitter confrontation and Nami feeling betrayed by Usopp's seeming abandonment. Meanwhile, the three crewmates who aren't participating get to relax in the practically empty resort. Chopper decides to explore, Luffy ends up chasing the short man who's been following them since their arrival on the island, and Robin talks to / interrogates the person who lost to them in the first trial on the nature of the island and the unique flower mentioned on the flyer, which had piqued her interest, which she discovers is called the Lily Carnation. When Luffy catches the short man, he is revealed to be Brief, captain of the Chobihige Toothbrush Mustache Pirates, intended as a chaplain reference but occasionally interpreted otherwise, who requests Luffy joins his crew, which Luffy vehemently rejects, not before Brief warns him that Baron tears crews apart. Chopper ends up in a massive graveyard and runs into a small family crew of pirates who manage to escape the Baron after failing the first trial. Chopper helps the single father appear strong in front of his kids in exchange for information, and he discovers that the Baron and his staff are a former pirate crew. They find a bounty poster where Chopper notices the Baron is the only one who has aged, but before he can share his discovery, he is shot in the back by the Baron. The crew reunites for dinner and some question where Chopper is and eventually assume he's still exploring, but the cracks in the crew are beginning to show. Sanji has a quick cook-off with the Baron's chef and, still angry from earlier, refuses to let Zoro eat, and Nami's resentment towards Usopp keeps up as she ignores him to chat with the same crew member Robin spoke to earlier. Frustrated with Nami, Usopp storms off, accidentally angering DJ Kappa, another member of Baron's crew and my personal favourite movie original character, and after mocking him is attacked. While this is happening, Robin has left the crew to look for the Lily Carnation. She finds a beach full of destroyed ships and only one from natural causes, but before she can return and warn her crew, Baron spots and shoots her after revealing a massive structure in the middle of the island is the Lily Carnation. Back at the dinner, Nami's conversation with the crew member reveals that he thinks he met Goldie Roger just recently, and when Nami tells him that Roger died years ago, his skin begins to rot and he grows visibly scared. Just as this happens, the Baron returns to announce the final trial. Right as the crew, or what's left of it, realise that 3 of them are missing, Sanji blames Zoro for napping, Zoro gets frustrated and blames Luffy for being too distracted by the food to keep an eye on his crew, and Nami tries to resolve the fight as Luffy looks defeated. Baron announces that the last trial is that the remaining members will be hunted down and shot by 100 members of his crew, and all they have to do is flee. The crew bitterly split up. Sanji and Nami both get caught in dead ends, and Luffy is chased down by the Baron's honing arrow, but is luckily saved by Brief, who pulls him into his underground base. Zoro manages to confront DJ leading the assault, but when he pulls off what should have been a deadly attack, DJ is unscathed. DJ defeats Zoro, and when DJ questions the Baron on how he always survives, all Baron can do is comfort him as his skin begins to rot. Down in Brief's underground base, it is revealed to Luffy amidst escape attempts that Brief is the only remaining member of his crew after the Baron tore them apart and fed them to a giant monster. After this warning, Luffy senses something is wrong and manages to escape. Chopper awakens next to the massive structure shown earlier just in time to see the youngest daughter of the family pirate crew being pulled into the mouth of the structure. He manages to save her just in time but unfortunately ends up getting caught himself. The children of the family pirates try to save Chopper, but their father drags them away so they can escape, not wanting Chopper's sacrifice to be in vain. Chopper is sure his crew will come to save him but loses hope when he sees all of them except Luffy lying in the mouth of the beast. Chopper is dropped in and we see Baron's shoulder flower chewing. Luffy appears and attempts to attack Baron in a rage, but is incapacitated by his arrows and forced to watch as each of his crewmates is fed to the Lily Carnation. As this happens, we are shown the members of Baron's crew regaining their strength and losing their rotten skin. As Baron taunts the weakened Luffy, asking whether he would prefer to live alone or die, Luffy is dragged down into another one of Brief's tunnels and saved. Severely injured, Luffy wakes back up in Brief's cave with the pirate family and with all will to live lost. However, the youngest child in the family pirates reveals she can still hear Chopper calling for him. Luffy finally understands what Brief has been going through, and this time Brief agrees that Luffy needs to fight Baron. So, with Brief's help, Luffy returns to the hilltop and manages to get to the Lily Carnation to attack it, but before he can, Baron starts taunting Brief. After some emotionally charged action, Luffy seems to have beaten Baron and got some hits in on the Lily Carnation. However, the true power of the Carnation is revealed when the massive form turns into innumerable arrows which bring Luffy into an almost corpse-like state. The shoulder flower transforms into a horrifying tumorous form latched onto the Baron's shoulder and displaying the beaten Straw Hat crew. However, emboldened by his family, the once cowardly father manages to shoot back one of Baron's arrows at the true Lily Carnation on his shoulder, creating an uncharacteristically gruesome explosion, even if it is just a plant. As the plant explodes, we are shown the members of Baron's crew transform into small sprouts on the ground, and the field of arrows disappear. Before the enraged Baron can attack the father, Luffy uses the last of his strength to knock out Baron. We hear Baron finally mourn the death of his crewmates after the shipwreck, as they wish that he just moved on. As Luffy wakes up, he discovers his crew alive and well as they leave the now desolate island covered in a warm sunrise. This summary doesn't do it justice, but I've covered pretty much every major plot development, so why does this movie stand out to me? Yo! An element of the movie I previously mentioned which might not have been fully conveyed in the summary is its dark tone. Even though One Piece's series definitely tackles darker themes, this rarely influences the tone of the show for long. This is not the case for Baron Omatsuri. While the movie begins hopeful and bright, as soon as the Straw Hats land on the island, the saturation lowers, and the use of wide angles and POV shots immerse the audience in the feeling of always being watched. With this atmosphere, the movie stands out from other One Piece movies and keeps the watcher engaged. This stylistic choice, I believe, can largely be attributed to the director Mamoru Hosoda. Before The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, The Boy and the Beast, Mirai, and most recently Belle, all incredibly well received and varying between popular and incredibly popular, One Piece Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island was his first feature-length movie as director. Looking at his future works, it is clear what is important to him as a director. The focus on fluid animation and movement to create expressive characterization is used masterfully throughout his filmography, and this really distinguishes the movie from other One Piece media, with this art style being a far cry from what fans of the series expect. Another signature of his future directorial career is his use of varying color palettes to accentuate tonal shifts. This dynamic tone is used to great effect throughout Baron Omatsuri. It emphasizes the desolate resort, the drama of the dinner scene, the cozy escapism of brief space, and the tension of the finale. Many of the newer One Piece movies tend to stick to an established palette from the beginning, and while this might help with aesthetic cohesion, it can also make the memory of the movies blend together, and I sometimes have trouble remembering scenes. This is definitely avoided by Hosoda, with the distinct tone of each scene making them stand apart and easily memorable. What's interesting with this use of tone and atmosphere is the way nature is presented. In most animated movies, especially those we are used to seeing from studios like Ghibli, nature is idealized and usually presented as lush, worth protecting, and associated with the protagonists. Think Pom Poko, My Name is Totoro, and Princess Mononoke. But in Baron Omatsuri, nature is generally villainized, with the main villain using a parasitic life form to exert his control, and the plant life in the movie is shown to be overbearing, threatening, and dangerous. I'm not just talking about the Lily Carnation. The Straw Hats get lost in a mysterious jungle at the start. Brief is shown to stalk the crew surrounded by trees, and Usopp's assault by DJ happens when he seeks seclusion within the forest. This unique aspect is what I believe to be a reflection of the darker point in Hosoda's career I referenced earlier. Hosoda was supposed to be the director of Howl's Moving Castle, and worked on the movie with Ghibli for some time. While the studio has made some of my favourite movies, it seems like they have a reputation in the industry for having a potentially toxic workplace. This obviously affected Hosoda's work, who was apparently told to make the movie how the famous Ghibli director Hayao Miyazaki would make it, and to abandon his creative instincts. This led to an embittered separation from the studio in 2002, and this timeline fits perfectly with him beginning work on Baron Omatsuri soon after this. With Ghibli's positive focus on nature and influence of Miyazaki's creative vision over the studio, the antagonistic wielding of nature by a controlling patriarch over a large crew of staff suddenly makes a lot more sense. While this may just be an interesting coincidence, I'd like to believe this is the inspiration that makes the tone of Baron Omatsuri so tactile. Yo! Moving on from the atmosphere, I want to return to the story, which I think takes all the best parts of One Piece of the series, but recontextualizes them in a standalone experience. An issue that can appear in many Shounen spin-off movies, especially in more recent years, is they often try to imitate canon. This is best exemplified in the new era of One Piece movies. With Oda now behind the helm, it seems it would be easier to make the movies feel more like canon, and it is obvious there's an active effort being made, with movies often being connected to the series as filler episodes, being used as promotion and contextualization for the movies, but that still doesn't make them canon. While I believe having Oda working on newer movies is generally a positive, I do believe this aspect can be a drawback. While the recent movies can feel epic in scale on the face of it and often want to appear like they have real stakes, you still know it's a movie and we will return to the status quo within 120 minutes, no matter how much of an effort is made to mask as canon. This subconscious knowledge can lead to some of the movies feeling relatively uncanny. I'm probably overthinking it, but this is why I prefer Hosoda's approach. That's why I love Baron Omatsuri. It fully detaches itself from canon, shifting its art style, and doesn't try to contextualize itself within the greater narrative of the series. While I'm sure some people see this as a negative, I think it lifts a creative burden off the director's shoulders and lets him make something that can be much more appreciated as a standalone piece. The creator is able to tell a succinct but impactful story within the runtime, which is what all good movies should try and do. However, so many movies in this current era are so obsessed with sequel baiting or fitting within a series that a fully standalone story, even if it uses pre-established characters, feels very refreshing. This is why I wish in the 17 years since the movie, the animation team for One Piece had tried an experiment like this again, with a talented director given creative freedom within the universe of the series, because I believe this experiment was a success. Yo! I obviously can't know this for certain, but by watching Baron Omatsuri, it is clear that Hosoda holds a certain level of reverence for and a strong understanding of the characters from One Piece. As I previously referenced, the characters all behave as they usually would, but what Hosoda does differently is he puts the crew in situations they wouldn't be in the canon series. While we have seen the Straw Hats fall out on a few occasions throughout the series, it has usually only been one character separating, or due to backstory related reasons. But what Hosoda portrays in Baron Omatsuri is a critique of Luffy's style of leadership and the possible repercussions. He manages to do this while keeping the behaviour of the characters faithful to the source material, while also showing a side of the crew the source material usually wants to avoid. I love Shounen as a genre, but one of the main features of it which frustrates me is how often authors refuse to critique the temperaments of their protagonists. The main characters have their headstrong, lovable, optimistic personalities, and that helps them get through all their problems, for the most part, and questioning this would be seen as heretical. Luffy as a protagonist of One Piece often gets this treatment, at least from Oda, but Hosoda challenges the character by questioning what would happen if Luffy's leadership failed his crew and gets them all put on the brink of death. And by seeing this side of Luffy so respectfully challenged, we get to see a story that we wouldn't see in canon, because it's told by a different storyteller, but still feels like part of the One Piece franchise, without all the canon masking I mentioned earlier. As well as challenging pre-established characters, Hosoda's utilization of key themes from One Piece not only helps the movie as a standalone piece, but also as part of One Piece media. Themes of friendship and companionship are important to many shonen series, but One Piece really centralizes this with the concept of nakama, generally defined as an amalgamation of a closer friend, family-like bond. These concepts are almost omnipresent throughout Baron Omatsuri, and the main theme of the movie is arguably the testing of these bonds. This is where another impressive aspect of the movie comes in, the utilization of movie original characters to portray these themes. A quick sidebar, but the design of these characters avoid the shonen movie trope of often over-designed movie original characters. The Baron, his crew, Brief, and the Pirate Family crew all fit within the aesthetic of the movie and have unique enough designs, especially DJ of course, to be memorable, but don't stick out and suffer from the unfortunate canon masking of other One Piece movie characters. While Oda's efforts on the newer movies are appreciated, I do think he's smart to save his best work for the actual series. But back to my point, the movie original characters fit their role perfectly by reinforcing thematic elements and progressing the plot. While none of the movie original characters get excessive exposition explaining their circumstances, they are still complex enough to be interesting. It is clear how desperate the father is to prove his strength to his crew in spite of his weakness. Brief's pain in losing his crew and fear of the Baron is clear in his interactions with Luffy, but the villain is a character who I think is treated with the most nuance. I am so thankful Hosoda avoided the trope of shonen movie villains being stoic and overpowered, because the expressiveness of the Baron is what makes him so interesting as an antagonist. Hosoda's later works tend for the most part to avoid having a central antagonist, so when he does, it is clearly a compromise to make him so sympathetic, at least once we know his circumstances. On multiple instances throughout the runtime, we see the Baron showing his compassion for his crew, which contextualizes the cruel methods he uses to keep his memories of them alive. This doesn't by any means excuse his action. Brief's hatred and completely wiped out crew represent this, but understanding his antagonism makes him a much more interesting character. Baron also does something a lot of great villains do by being a reflection of the hero. Baron can be interpreted as a bad timeline Luffy, showing the bitterness of a captain who lost all his crew, and by the climax he has fully put Luffy in his position. We can see what helps Luffy resolve the conflict is the hope he has in being able to save them, and the companionship he finds in Brief. Luffy failed in stopping Baron the first time because he went in alone. While Hosoda goes about it in a very atypical way for the franchise, he tells a thematically fitting story for the One Piece series. Yo! While I haven't been the most controlled in my praises for Baron Omatsuri, I do think it would be productive to address some of the criticism made about the movie. Probably one of the easiest complaints to guess is that the movie isn't One Piece enough for some fans of the series. While most One Piece fans seem to like the movie, Baron Omatsuri is certainly divisive with a vocal sect of the fandom, seeing Hosoda's work as an insult to the source material. Even though, as I've stated, the characters are in character and the themes are relevant, there is a disconnect from the series as a whole, with a distinct tone and signature Hosoda animation style. A Reddit reviewer called the movie depressing and morbid and ended their thread saying, "I wish I never saw it." One short IMDb review simply reads,
"It's a disgrace compared to the series. Animation is bad, story sucks."
And a slightly longer IMDb review shows the reviewer identifying as
a diehard One Piece fan,
and continues to explain,
"The horrific artwork and animation made me want to puke.
And the story obviously did nothing to help their experience.
The boring plot mixed with the confusing transition from scene to scene made it very tough to watch."
They conclude with,
"Don't even consider watching this crappy film, it's not worth your time,"
after saying they loved every other One Piece movie. I didn't highlight these reviews to invalidate these opinions, but I just wanted to show that there are fans of the source material who hate this movie just as much as I love it. Even though there are people who hate the whole movie as I just showed, more specific criticisms, less based on personal taste, are much easier to approach. The biggest issue, which I agree with most reviewers, is a lack of an explicit resolution to the inter-crew conflict throughout the movie. While I do wish we got to see some kind of clarity between Zoro and Sanji and Nami and Usopp, it could be argued that they almost died because of this drama and the mere act of surviving is the resolution. Partially related to this is the potentially excessive focus on Luffy compared to the rest of his crew, with them all being completely absent from the third act. While I would have loved to have seen more of the rest of the crew, the fact that they all got at least a couple of scenes as stars is more than can be said for a lot of One Piece media, and to be honest, Luffy is such a great main character I can't really complain that we got to see a lot of him and his thought process throughout the runtime. And another potential criticism that I haven't ever seen explicitly stated anywhere but is more related to just me being a bit dense, is that some of the details surrounding the mystery of the Lily Carnation are slightly abstract, especially on the first viewing. I think it is a little unfair of me to list this as a criticism, but the first time I finished the movie, there are a few subtle details that I missed, making me not fully understand the crux of the movie. However, an alternate cut of the movie where Baron monologues to clarify that Lily Carnation feeds on pirate crews he lures in and uses them as energy to keep the physical manifestation of the memory of his crewmates alive after they all died in a shipwreck about 20 years earlier, probably wouldn't be the best way to solve this issue. But whenever I'm watching the movie with friends, of course I force my friends to watch it. I have to spread it like a pyramid scheme. I am hyper aware of the subtleties that they might be missing, but I should probably just chill. I still loved it on first viewing, even if half of the details went over my head. Yo! So that's pretty much all I have to say, at least for now, on this movie. I could recite a platitude about not judging books by their covers, or in this case, movies on their lengthy source material, but I would just be repeating myself. I do think it's worth restating just how much I would recommend this movie to anyone who appreciates animated movies and is looking for something unique with a very distinct tone and very different from any other animated movies being released in the modern era. Comparing Baron Omatsuri to Hosoda's latest piece, Bell, makes his evolution through his career clear. But there are techniques or signatures he still uses that were established in the 6th One Piece movie. Bell apparently got 14 minutes of standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival, and it deserved it, but I think it's time for Baron Omatsuri to get its flowers. Yo! If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Just got a few things I want to say before I completely finish it. The first thing, which I kind of realized quite late on into making the video, is that I haven't mentioned the Digimon special which Hosoda worked on, which, I mean, obviously the whole big thing is that this is like the first movie he worked on, and that isn't technically a movie, it's like a special, but I know Digimon fans like really like it. Apparently it's like just one of the best like animated Digimon media, but I couldn't find a way to like naturally involve it, but I just thought I should mention it here. So that probably got him the like, I don't know, it got him noticed, so that's what got him working on the One Piece movie, I assume, because apparently it's like really good. I should watch it, but I'll get to it. Also, I didn't mean to make it sound like I was shitting on other One Piece movies as much as I did. Like, I didn't intend that, but then I was like listening back to it and I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like I really hate the other One Piece movies. And I don't, this is very much my favorite one, obviously. But yeah, I still really enjoy them. I really like Gold, but yeah, I need to go back and watch all of the earlier ones just because like Some of them I know are like really short and I just might as well watch them, but I've watched all the modern ones. But yeah. But no, also thank yous. I want to thank Annie for helping me again with all of the grammar and stuff for the written version. The written version is in the description as always, if you kind of prefer that. I know it's not really helpful putting that at the end, but yeah. Thank you, Jay, for the voiceovers. Of course, it obviously isn't as much in this one as there is per usual, but I think it's kind of nice at the end to like break it up a bit with that. And of course, Botanautical for the amazing thumbnail. I love how they drew Chopper. It looks so good. The kind of Murakami inspired background, it just is really good. Yeah, no, it just looks amazing. Always go check them out on Tumblr or Instagram, whichever suits you best. I'm not sure how I'm gonna classify this video because my other two have very much been like video essays. By the way, if you're interested in my other video essays, go check them out. There's one on Bayonetta and kind of like why she used to be really controversial and why she isn't anymore, and one about video game censorship and kind of just misconceptions around it, which I thought was like a really interesting thing to like write on. And yeah, but it's probably gonna get dated like really quickly, but I still think it's interesting. But yeah, this is like way shorter than those, so I guess it's just a short video essay, but also kind of like, I don't know, media analysis, something like that. I'll find a way to like classify it. But yeah, no, if you have any opinions on One Piece movies, please comment them, because I just want to hear them, because like people talk so much about the series, obviously, because like canon is fun to discuss, but like yeah, there's a new one coming out soon. I'm looking forward to Red. The character designs look really good. Yeah, so no. And if you have any opinions on Baron Omatsuri, because people don't really talk about it that much anymore, just because like there's no reason to, it's not relevant. But yeah, no, tell me what you think. I'm looking forward to hearing it, and thanks for watching.